The night he didn't fight back, the rain was soft but steady as it fell over the cracked sidewalks of a quiet neighborhood in downtown Los Angeles. Dim streetlights flickered over closed diners and shuttered shops, casting long shadows on the pavement. In the distance, a lone figure walked silently, hands in his pockets, his head slightly lowered as if deep in thought. It was Keanu Reeves. He wore a dark jacket and jeans, nothing fancy, nothing loud. He walked like any other man on the street, unnoticed by most. But tonight, that would change. Keanu wasn't going anywhere in particular. It had been one of those nights, quiet, a little sad. He had just visited a small rehab center in East La, the kind of place people don't talk about. He had gone there without cameras, without anyone knowing, just to check in, to donate, to speak with a few recovering teens. They had no idea who he was at first. That's what he liked. As he passed a narrow alley between the buildings, he heard shouting. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp, urgent. A man's voice, then a woman's, then something fell and broke. Keanu stopped. He didn't hesitate. He turned into the alley and walked deeper into the shadows. At the far end, barely visible in the darkness, a woman sat on the ground beside a knocked-over trash bin. Her lip was bleeding, her eyes wide. A man stood over her, yelling, hands raised in frustration. "Leave her alone," Keanu said, calmly but firmly. The man turned. "Who the hell are you?" Keanu didn't answer. "Get out of here, man," the guy snapped, stepping closer. Keanu took a slow breath and looked at the woman. "Are you okay?" She nodded weakly, wiping her mouth with her sleeve. Before anything else could happen, the sound of a car engine cut through the silence. Headlights hit the alley walls. A black and white police car pulled up at the alley's mouth. Two officers stepped out. The younger one had a shaved head and a smug smile. The older one walked with a limp and didn't smile at all. They didn't speak to the woman, didn't ask what happened. Instead, the younger officer turned straight to Keanu. "You causing problems here?" he asked. Keanu shook his head. "I was helping." The older officer glanced at the guy who had been yelling. "This guy bothering you?" The man nodded quickly, sensing an advantage. "Yeah. He just showed up and started getting in my face." Keanu looked confused. "That's not what happened." The younger cop stepped closer. "You got ID?" Keanu pulled his wallet from his pocket and handed over his license. The officer looked at it. Something flickered in his eyes, but it vanished quickly. Well, he said, grinning. "Look what we have here. A big-time actor walking the streets, like a regular Joe." The older officer leaned in and looked at the card. His expression stayed flat. "You got drugs on you?" the younger one asked. "No," Keanu replied, calmly. "We can search you. We have cause." Keanu didn't argue. "Go ahead." The search turned up nothing, of course, but the tone had already shifted. "You know, it's dangerous out here," the younger officer said, stepping in closer, lowering his voice. "A guy like you could end up in a lot of trouble if word got around. You were interfering with locals." Keanu's face remained unreadable. "I was just trying to help. Maybe next time." "You let us handle it," the officer said. "Unless you want things to get messy. Unless you're the kind of guy who donates to the right places." The meaning was clear. The older officer didn't say a word, just stood there watching. Keanu's jaw tensed slightly, but he said nothing. "Tell you what," the younger cop continued. "You give a little something to the precinct's community fund, and we can make sure you don't get hassled, you know, for being a concerned citizen." Keanu looked him in the eye. "Is that a threat?" "Nah," the officer said, smirking. "Just a friendly offer." Behind him, the woman on the ground watched in silence. She knew exactly what was happening. She had seen this game played before. Keanu didn't raise his voice, didn't get angry. He simply said, "No." The officer's smile dropped. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe," Keanu said, "but I'm not buying silence." Suddenly, the older officer stepped forward. "Let's go," he said to his partner. "What? We're letting him go?" "We're leaving," the older cop said again, more forcefully. The younger one hesitated, glaring at Keanu, then finally turned back toward the car. Before they left, the older officer looked at Keanu. "You didn't fight back," he said. "Most guys would have." Keanu nodded. Most guys don't get followed home after. The older cop gave a half smile, like he understood too well. They left. Keanu helped the woman up and called a cab for her. Gave her enough money to get somewhere. Safer she didn't say much, just stared at him, tears quietly sliding down her cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. "Stay safe," he replied. As he walked out of the alley, the rain had stopped. The air smelled fresh. Something had shifted. But this was only the beginning. Because 2 nights later, Keanu would find a note on his doorstep. It said, "We warned you." And that's when everything changed. Asterisk, the warning that followed note wasn't written in anger. It was calm, clean black ink on plain white paper. But those 3 words, "We warned you," hit harder than a threat ever could. Keanu stood at his doorstep, the morning sun barely rising over the horizon. The note had no signature, no fingerprints, no name, just those words tucked under a small rock beside his door. He stared at it for a long moment, then folded it and placed it inside his jacket pocket. He didn't tell anyone, not his team, not the press, not even his assistant. He didn't want to draw attention, but he knew what it meant. This wasn't over. The same day, Keanu returned to the small rehab center. The place was quiet, as always. The walls were faded but filled with kindness. The director, Maria, greeted him with a warm smile. "You came back," she said. "I said I would," Keanu replied. But as they spoke, he noticed something strange. 2 men sitting in a parked black car across the street. They weren't doing anything, just sitting, watching. One of them had the same face he had seen in the alley. Not the man who had attacked the woman, not the officer who threatened him, the quiet one, the one who hadn't said a word that night. This time, he wasn't silent. Maria followed his gaze. "Friends of yours?" Keanu shook his head. "No, but they think they know me." He stayed at the center for a few more hours, helping repair a broken shelf, reading to a young boy with shaky hands, and sharing quiet moments with people who had forgotten what hope sounded like. He never mentioned the car. He didn't want to bring his storm into their peace. But the car was still there when he left, and it followed him, not aggressively, not close, but it stayed in his rearview mirror all the way to Sunset Boulevard. Then, it turned off without warning, gone again, like a shadow. Keanu didn't panic. He didn't speed up. He went to a small diner, ordered black coffee, and sat in the corner booth. The same one he used to sit in before fame had changed everything. Back when he could disappear in a crowd. Back when he was just a boy with a dream and a motorcycle, and a worn-out script in his pocket. The waitress, Jenny, brought his coffee with a quiet smile. "You okay?" she asked. Keanu hesitated, then nodded. "Just tired." But Jenny wasn't fooled. "You've got that look again." "What look?" "The one that says you're about to do something crazy kind. Even if it hurts." Keanu smiled faintly. "Maybe. You want pie?" "Always." As Jenny walked away, a man slipped into the booth across from Keanu. No warning. No hello. It was the quiet cop. His badge wasn't visible. His name wasn't offered. He looked more like a tired dad than a corrupt officer. Gray at the temples. Sadness behind his eyes. "You should have taken the offer," the man said softly. Keanu didn't respond. "You think you're better than us. Still nothing." The man leaned in. "They won't stop. Not now. Not after what you did. You embarrassed them." "I helped someone," Keanu said quietly. "That's not what they'll say." Keanu looked at him. "Why are you warning me?" The man's voice dropped. "Because I used to believe in something, before they made me forget." A long silence passed. "They'll try to frame you," he added. "They'll plant something, make a scene, ruin your name." Keanu's expression didn't change. "I've lost everything before. I can lose it again, but I won't lose my soul." The man nodded once. "Then be careful where you go next, and who you trust." He slid out of the booth and walked out without another word. Keanu sat alone for a while. He didn't finish his pie. He left Jenny a large tip, paid in cash, and walked out into the night. He didn't go home. Instead, he went to visit an old friend. Her name was Angela. She used to be a private investigator before cancer slowed her down. Now she ran a small security agency from a cluttered apartment filled with case files and coffee cups. "You're early," she said as she opened the door. "I need your help." "That bad?" Keanu handed her the note. "Someone's following me." Angela read the words. Her face didn't change. "You always get fan mail like this." "Not this kind." She nodded slowly, motioned for him to come in, then locked the door behind him. "You should have come to me after the alley. I heard about that night. From who word gets around, especially when dirty cops feel the heat." Keanu sat on her couch. "They're trying to shut me up." Angela raised an eyebrow. "And let me guess, you're not going to stay quiet." "I can't." Angela sighed, rubbing her temples. "Okay, then we need to fight back. Quiet, smart, clean. I'm listening." She stood, grabbed a folder, and pulled out a photo. "This guy here, Detective Roy Kelton. He's the one who threatened you." Keanu nodded. "He's not just any cop," she said. "He's part of a group inside the force real deep, real dirty. They cover for each other, extort locals, even small celebrities who won't go public. Why hasn't anyone exposed them?" "People tried," she said. "They disappeared. Or their stories got twisted until no one believed them." Keanu's voice was low. "Then let's make sure they believe me." Angela smiled slightly. "You're not afraid." "I am," he said, "but I'm more afraid of doing nothing." She studied him for a moment, then reached for her laptop. "Then let's start digging. If they want to play dirty, we play smart." Outside, the city lights began to fade under the weight of fog. Somewhere out there, people in power were planning to silence him. But Keanu wasn't just an actor. He was a man who had known grief, who had walked alone for years, who had seen kindness buried under pain and still chose to give. And this time, he wasn't walking away. He was walking into the fire. Asterisk whispers inside the Badgeth next morning. The city moved like it always did, fast, loud, and blind to the quiet battles hiding beneath the surface. Keanu sat in Angela's apartment, the blinds half closed, sunlight spilling through like broken glass. The room smelled of stale coffee and printer ink. Papers were everywhere, files, reports, photos, names, every one of them tied to the same network of officers. Angela typed furiously on her old laptop, her fingers dancing across the keys with purpose. She didn't just gather information. She hunted truth. "We found a pattern," she said, pointing to the screen. Keanu leaned forward. "Go on." "Detective Roy Kelton and two others, Officer Torres and Sergeant Dillon, have all been linked to complaints. Most of them never made it past internal review, mysteriously closed. But the reports tell a story." She handed him a stack of printed papers. One by one, he read the details. A mechanic who refused to pay protection money, late arrested for drug possession, evidence that vanished after 6 months. A single mother who reported officer misconduct, then lost custody of her child over a trumped-up charge. A young actor who vanished after accusing a sergeant of blackmail. Keanu's hands tightened around the paper. "How did no one stop them?" he asked. "Fear," Angela replied, "and silence." Keanu looked up. "So we break that silence. Careful," she warned. "They don't just threaten, they erase." Keanu nodded slowly. "Then we shine a light so bright, they can't hide." Angela paused. "You want to go public?" "No," he said, "not yet. First we gather proof." Just then, Angela's phone buzzed. She picked it up. Frowning, "Unknown number," she murmured. She answered. "Hello." There was a long pause, then a voice, shaken and breathless. "You're helping him, aren't you?" Angela stiffened. "Who is this? I don't have much time." The voice whispered. "They're watching, but I saw what they did. I have the files, the recordings." Keanu's eyes narrowed. Angela put the phone on speaker. "Who are you?" he asked gently. "Doesn't matter," the voice said. "I worked inside. Dispatch. I saw everything. They used burner phones, off-the-record arrests, surveillance on people who said no." "Where are you now?" Angela asked. "I'll leave something at locker 112, Union Station, today, 3 p.m. After that, I'm gone." The line went dead. Keanu and Angela stared at each other. "Do we trust it?" she asked. "We have to," Keanu replied. At exactly 2:53 p.m., Keanu walked through Union Station. A baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, a worn gray hoodie zipped up. He didn't run, didn't sneak. He walked like a man with nowhere to be. Locker 112 was tucked in the far end of the station's east wing. A small silver key was hidden behind the fire extinguisher, just like the voice had said. He opened the locker. Inside was a thick manila envelope, sealed tight, and a flash drive taped to the front. He slipped both into his bag and walked out without looking back, but he didn't make it far. Two men in plain clothes followed him down the steps. He noticed their reflection in the glass doors as he passed. They weren't subtle. Keanu kept walking, steady, until he reached the nearby bookstore. He stepped inside, nodded to the clerk, then moved through the rows until he reached the back exit. Outside, he found a quiet alley and ducked into a side door one Angela had prepared just in case. She was already waiting inside her car, parked near a back lot. "You were followed," she said, watching the mirror. "I know," he replied calmly. Sliding into the seat beside her. "They're getting sloppy, or desperate," Angela added. Back at her apartment, they opened the envelope. What they found changed everything. Inside were photos, reports, handwritten notes, voice recordings of officers discussing cleanup jobs, scaring donors, and flipping cases to target whistleblowers. One photo stood out. It was of Keanu, taken from a distance, grainy, standing outside the rehab center. Written underneath in red pen, "Keep him quiet." Angela leaned back, her face pale. "This is more than extortion. They're running an entire system." Keanu's voice was low, "and they're willing to destroy anyone who won't play along." The recordings were clear. One in particular made Angela's hand tremble. It was Roy Kelton. "If Reeves thinks he can play saint, fine. But we'll take him down. He's got a past, doesn't he? Let's dig it up, or fake one." Keanu sat still, his jaw tight. "We leak this now," Angela said, "and it explodes." "No," he said. "They'll twist it, call it fake, call me unstable. Then what? We go to someone who lost everything because of them." Keanu said, "Someone who still has nothing left to lose, someone they hurt." They found her living in a trailer on the edge of San Fernando Valley. Her name was Rena, a former social worker who filed a complaint against Officer Torres for harassing a minor. Months later, her license was revoked, her home repossessed, her name dragged through the mud. Rena answered the door, a baby on her hip. Her eyes widened when she saw Keanu. "No," she said. "No cameras, no press, none," he promised. "Just truth." She let them in. He sat across from her at a small wooden table. Angela stayed near the door, watching quietly. "I want to tell your story," Keanu said. Rena laughed bitterly. "So they can come back and finish what they started." He shook his head. "So they can't touch anyone again." She studied him for a long moment. Her eyes, once filled with fight, were tired now. But somewhere in them, something sparked. "You really mean that? With everything I have?" Rena wiped a tear and slowly nodded. "Then let me show you something." She opened an old showbox. Inside were copies of her old reports, screenshots of emails, and an old camcorder wrapped in cloth. "They thought they erased everything," she whispered. "But I kept the worst part hidden. I couldn't let it die." Keanu's hands trembled slightly as he took the camcorder. "What's on this?" he asked. Rena's voice cracked. "The day they ruined my life." That night, Keanu didn't sleep. He sat in Angela's dark apartment, headphones on, watching the footage Rena had saved. It was raw, terrifying, real. Officers yelling, grabbing papers, smashing her desk, her screaming, her child crying in the background. Torres laughing as he whispered, "Next time, don't snitch." Keanu closed his eyes. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about every person who had suffered in silence, every name buried under shame, every voice turned into an echo. And now they had the proof. But they needed one more thing. A stage. The camera that couldn't be silenced. 3 days passed. Keanu kept moving, but never alone. Angela watched every alley. Rena checked every mirror. They knew the walls were closing in. Even so, they weren't afraid, just alert. They had something bigger than fear now. They had truth. Angela spent hours digitizing the camcorder footage and syncing it with the documents from the locker, every timestamp, every voice, Every flash of violence or threat at all fit. Rena's story was no longer a broken memory. It was solid, undeniable. But that wasn't enough. The system won't believe victims alone. Angela said, looking exhausted. They'll say it's edited, taken out of context. Keanu nodded. Then we give them more than one voice. You mean we find others, the ones too scared to speak before. We bring them together. Angela hesitated. You're risking everything. So are they, Keanu said softly. They started with a mechanic named Marco. He had been arrested 2 years ago after refusing to pay the neighborhood tax. His garage was shut down. His brother deported. He didn't want to talk at first. Not until Keanu stood outside his new shop for 2 hours in the rain. You're serious? Marco finally asked, opening the door. I don't ask people to risk everything unless I'm willing to do the same, Keanu said. Marco stared at him for a long time, then quietly stepped aside and let him in. Next came Cheryl, a school nurse who lost her job after calling in suspicious bruises on a student. Officer Dillon had visited the school the next day. The boy was gone after that. She broke down during the interview. I thought I was going crazy, she whispered. They made me feel like I imagined everything. Keanu didn't speak. He just handed her a glass of water and waited. When she was ready, she continued. Her voice got stronger with every word. By the end of the week, they had 7 stories, 7 people, 7 lives nearly destroyed by the same 3 names: Kelton, Torres, Dillon. We can't keep hiding this, Angela said. We have to go wide. Keanu agreed. But they needed a safe platform. They couldn't trust local news. Some of the reporters had ties to the same corrupt circle. They couldn't trust official police channels. Too many were watching. So Keanu made a call. Not to a studio, not to a talk show. He called Lena Cho, a war journalist turned independent documentarian. She didn't work for networks. She worked for truth. She answered his call with a short pause. Is it about the footage? Yes. I heard a whisper it existed. I thought it was a rumor. It's real, he said. I want you to tell their stories, unedited, honest, loud. Lena didn't hesitate. Send me the files. I'll be there tomorrow. When Lena arrived, she brought 2 cameras and a promise. I'll protect the footage with my life. The interviews were raw, honest, painful. Keanu didn't speak. On camera, he stood beside them, off screen, quiet, listening. Lena caught every emotion, every pause, every tear. She didn't direct. She didn't cut corners. She let people speak. And when Rena sat down in front of the camera, holding the camcorder footage in her lap, the silence in the room was so deep it hurt. They tried to erase me, she said, but this is me, saying no more. When it was over, Lena turned to Keanu. You ready for what comes next? He nodded. Because they'll come after you, she warned. Not just with threats. They'll dig up every mistake, every scar, even things you never did. Let them, Keanu said. My story isn't what matters here. Theirs is. The video went live the next night. Lena uploaded it to her verified channel. No ads, no sponsors, just truth. The title was simple. 7 voices, 1 system. Silence ends here. Within 24 hours, it had over 2 million views. Within 48, the world was watching. Comments poured in, some with disbelief, some with rage, some with painful recognition. This happened to me too. I stayed quiet for years. Not anymore. Thank you for telling the truth. Keanu's name trended worldwide, but not because of a movie, because of a movement. That night, he received a call from an unknown number. He answered. This is Detective Dillon, the voice said. Flatly. You're ruining lives. No, Keanu said. I'm protecting them. You think you're some kind of hero? No, he replied. Just a man who stopped being silent. Dillon's voice dropped. Walk away, or you won't walk at all. Keanu didn't flinch. I've been walking alone for years. I'm not afraid. The line went dead. Early the next morning, as dawn touched the city, the consequences arrived. Someone smashed the windows of the rehab center. Maria called Keanu in tears. They broke everything, the books, the chairs, even the kids' paintings. Keanu went there immediately. He didn't call the police. Instead, he stood beside Maria and helped sweep the glass When the kids came in later, he knelt beside them, told them it was going to be okay. Sometimes people are scared of kindness, he said, but we aren't. That evening, an unexpected knock came at Angela's apartment. She looked through the peephole and froze. It was the quiet cop. The same one from the diner. She opened the door slowly. You again? He nodded. They know. They're spiraling. Kelton, he's planning something. Angela narrowed her eyes. What kind of something? They're going to set up a scene. Blame Keanu. Make it look like he hurt someone. They already picked the location. Where? The officer handed her a slip of paper. Pier 21. Tomorrow night. 8 p.m. Why are you helping? She asked. Because I have a daughter. He said softly. And if she ever needed someone brave, I'd want it to be a man like him. He turned and walked away. Angela shut the door and immediately called Keanu. He listened quietly, then said just one word. Good. The trap was set. But they didn't know Keanu had his own. The night the trap snapped shut, Pier 21 was always quiet after dark. No tourists, no street vendors, just cold wind rolling off the ocean and creaking wood beneath forgotten fishing boats. The perfect place to make someone disappear or ruin their name forever. And tonight, that's exactly what corrupt officers Kelton, Torres, and Dillon intended to do. They had set it up carefully. An anonymous call had been made to dispatch earlier in the day claiming Keanu Reeves was meeting someone there for a drug deal. A fake witness was planted. A hidden bag of pills already stashed under a bench. Cameras were disabled. Body cams conveniently malfunctioning. And at 7:59 p.m., Officer Dillon waited in a black, unmarked car nearby, radio silent. Torres stood behind a boatyard shack. Kelton paced the boardwalk with a flashlight, waiting for Keanu to arrive. What they didn't know was, he was already there. Keanu sat silently on the upper deck of a docked boat, hidden in shadow, eyes calm, heart steady. He wore black, hood up. Beside him was Angela, camera in hand, phone recording everything. On a rooftop across the marina, Lena had a long lens trained on the pier. Her camera was live, streaming. And inside a nondescript white van 2 blocks away, Rena sat with Marco and Cheryl, each one watching the feed, ready to speak if needed. Beside them, the quiet officer, the only one on the inside who dared to help, monitored radio frequencies and texted updates as they came in. At 8:02 p.m., the trap moved into motion. Kelton's single quotes S voice crackled through his mic. Target spotted. Moving in. Keanu stepped from behind the boat, walking slowly along the edge of the pier. His steps were deliberate, slow, inviting. Kelton moved quickly, flashlight aimed at his face. Hands up. Keanu raised his hands without hesitation. We got a tip, Kelton said. You're meeting someone here for a drop. Keanu's voice was steady. You don't believe that? Kelton's smirk was sharp. Doesn't matter what I believe. It's what's on the report. Torres appeared from behind. Bag under the bench. Found it. Bingo. Kelton said. Dillon joined them. Got him. All 3 officers turned toward the dockside cameras, already assuming their version of the story would be the only one told. What they didn't see was the red light blinking under the dock railing. A hidden camera placed by Angela earlier that day. Live. Broadcasting everything. Across the city. Thousands of people were watching. At Lena's channel headquarters, the viewer count climbed rapidly. 500,000, then 700,000, then 1 million. Comments poured in. This is a setup. Oh my God, they're planting it. They're lying. I can't believe this. He's innocent. As Kelton bent down to inspect the planted bag, Keanu finally spoke. You're being watched. Kelton laughed. By who? By everyone, Keanu said. At that moment, Angela stepped out of the shadows, holding up her phone. You're live, Kelton. The world sees you. For a moment, the pier went silent. Torres blinked. What? Dillon turned, confused. Then Lena's voice crackled through Keanu's earpiece. We have full feed, clean audio, uploading backups now. Keanu looked at Kelton. You picked the wrong man. Kelton's face twisted. This won't stick. But behind him, sirens began to rise. Not just 1 or 2, an entire fleet. Lights flashed across the water. Not from the local precinct, From Internal Affairs. From the FBI. They had been sent the full package: footage, documents, testimony from Lena's team, 2 hours before the peer meeting, every detail, every victim's name, every proof of corruption. It was over. Dylan ran first, but was caught at the edge of the parking lot. Torres dropped to his knees, hands up. Kelton stood frozen, the flashlight still in his hand, no longer shining. When Internal Affairs cuffed him, he didn't speak, not a word, but Keanu did. As they led Kelton away, he looked him in the eye and said, "Truth doesn't flinch." The days that followed were filled with noise. Media swarmed. Headlines exploded. Corrupt officers exposed in live stream sting. Keanu Reeves leads effort to expose police abuse. Community fights back with proof. But for Keanu, the noise didn't matter. What mattered were the people. Rena got her license reinstated. The state apologized. Marco reopened his garage. Customers lined the block. Cheryl returned to her school, and the child she had worried about was found in protective care, safe at last. The rehab center received more donations than ever before. New books, new art supplies. Maria cried for days. Keanu didn't take credit. He didn't give interviews. He quietly met with each of the victims and said the same words: "You did this. I just helped hold the light." But not everyone was happy. A small group of people still believed it was all staged, that it was a setup, a trick, that Keanu had done it for attention. Those voices were loud for a while, but they couldn't silence the truth, because the truth had faces now. It had voices. It had wounds that couldn't be ignored. One evening, as the city began to breathe again, Keanu sat on a bench outside the rehab center. A boy from the group home approached, maybe 10 years old, silent, holding a crumpled drawing. "Is this for me?" Keanu asked. The boy nodded. Keanu unfolded it. It showed a stick figure standing in front of a group of people, holding a flashlight high. Monsters in the dark, light everywhere. He smiled. "What's this?" The boy said softly. "That's you. The man who made the shadows go away." Keanu didn't speak. He just nodded and put the drawing in his pocket. But even as things calmed, Angela had one warning left. "You did a brave thing," she said, sipping her tea. "But this isn't the last time someone will try to silence the truth." Keanu looked at her. "Then we keep showing up," he said. Every time, and somewhere across the city, someone else was watching. Not a criminal, not a cop. Someone quiet. Someone waiting for their turn to speak. And now, they knew it was possible. Because of him, the voice that never left the sky above Los Angeles was different now. Less heavy, less silent. It had only been 2 weeks since the sting at Pier 21, but the ripple it left behind kept growing. News stations couldn't stop talking about it. Community forums buzzed with emotion, anger, relief, and a surprising new feeling that had once seemed impossible in certain neighborhoods. Hope. But for Keanu, it was never about headlines. He sat quietly outside a youth center in East La, helping repaint a wall with a group of kids. His hands were covered in blue paint, his jeans stained, his smile quiet. Beside him, a young girl with braids tapped his shoulder. "Are you the man from the video?" she asked softly. Keanu paused, looked at her, then nodded. "You're not like the others," she said. "What others?" "The ones who come, take pictures, and leave." He thought about it, then replied, "Some people speak, others stay. I'm here to stay." She grinned and kept painting. Across town, Lena sat in her small office, editing new interviews. Survivors who had come forward after the video went viral. Dozens of them, different cities, different stories, the same sickness running through. Broken systems. But now, there were cameras, there were witnesses, there was proof. People were less afraid. And it all started with a man who didn't shout, who didn't fight with fists, who simply refused to walk away. Lena uploaded a new documentary trailer that morning. The title was simple: He Didn't Run. Within hours, millions clicked. Back at Angela's apartment, she and Keanu sat by the window, drinking coffee and watching the quiet street. "You've started something," Angela said. "I didn't mean to. That's why it worked." He looked at her. "You ever think about what we lost?" She nodded slowly. "But more about what we saved." Keanu pulled out the drawing the boy had given him, the stick figure holding a flashlight. "You think it's enough?" he asked. "For now," she said. "But truth needs people to protect it. Always." He nodded. Then his phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. "You helped my sister. I never thought anyone would. Thank you." He stared at the message for a long time. Then another came. Unknown number. "My dad said your video saved his job. He's crying in the kitchen. We never saw him cry before." Then another. Unknown number. "I was scared to speak. Now I'm not." His hands trembled slightly. These weren't fans. They were echoes, reminders that truth, once released, multiplies. The city began holding community hearings. Real investigations were launched. Kelton, Torres, and Dylan faced multiple charges, not just for what they did but for what they tried to hide. But more importantly, new officers began stepping up, ones who had stayed silent for too long. The quiet cop, the one who warned Keanu in the diner, testified. His voice, shaky but strong, helped seal the case. He stepped off the stand, past Keanu in the hallway, and said, "Thank you for reminding me who I was." Keanu only nodded. The rehab center reopened with new windows, fresh paint, and a new name painted above the front door, Lighthouse. The kids voted on it. Maria smiled through tears when Keanu showed up with a box of books. "You keep doing this," she said, arms crossed, "showing up when no one expects it. Because they always should." He replied. One night, after everything had quieted, Keanu sat alone by the ocean, not hiding, not running, just breathing. He watched the tide roll in, soft and steady. Beside him, Lena approached and sat down. "You ever think about quitting?" she asked. "Every day," he said with a small smile. "But then I meet someone who's been through worse, and I remember, I'm lucky, even after everything, especially after everything." They sat in silence for a while. Then Lena asked, "So what now?" Keanu looked out at the dark waves, then up at the stars. "Someone else is scared. Right now, somewhere, wondering if anyone will believe them." And he turned to her. "And we make sure they're not alone." The next morning, Keanu received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a simple photo, a small group of people standing outside a courthouse, smiling, holding hands. Below it, scribbled in black ink, "We found the courage because you showed us the way." He placed the photo beside the boy's drawing on his shelf, then walked out the door. Another meeting, another voice, another shadow that needed light. Because kindness wasn't a what-I'm act. It was a choice every day. And Keanu had already made his. He wouldn't stop. Not now. Not ever.